money with production capacity. But this kind of disruptive change gives us also new challenges. Because with this technology that is cheaper and accessible in all of the world, new competitors come to the market. The forces of the supplier play a major role. The customers ask for other services. For instance, they ask not to buy a wind turbine, they ask for the energy. And so it's not like buying this wind turbine, it's like buying a complete service contract. And there are also threats due to the substitution of products and services. If you consider a Siemens automation controller, it's really an expensive product, so you have to spend in an automation project, you have to spend a lot of money for this. But the emerge of technology in the whole world with this Internet of Things technology gives you products and technologies with other investment costs. And this will be harder and harder to argue why an expensive, established Siemens controller is the solution for all automation. And this is a challenge for maybe Germany, but also a chance for other enterprises, startups, emerging markets, emerging countries to be part. At the end, we create new business models, or we have to create new business models. There is the need for new strategies for companies, also within Germany, and we have organizational changes. So the generation, the digital natives, that now more and more enter the enterprises, ask for another way of interacting with technology. So if you are used to use your smartphone every day, you don't accept old technologies that are not interlinked and connected within the faculties. So, I'm sorry, just recommendation for the further reading. The management professor, Michael Porter, just recently published a new article on this aspect in Harvard Business Review, which really gives you a good argumentation why this really affects many companies. Mainly, of course, with a focus on the developed and industrialized countries, but nevertheless, I think that this is really interesting to understand the whole story of this disruptive change. And I'll give you one example of smart connected things, and that is one example of agriculture. So I selected this because we were talking about agriculture yesterday, and in Germany we grow asparagus in French, asperge. Yeah. So you know this kind of plant. So we grow this in Germany, but it's also quite hard to grow it because you need different conditions, and of course in Germany the weather is not very stable. So this is kind of problematic, not to waste too much of your earnings. And Bosch developed within 3 weeks a sensor system to measure the temperature at different level in the ground. Like it is, unfortunately it's in German, but these are the sensors within the ground, and this is the plant. And the thing is that you have to control the temperature with a black or white covering over the ground. And with this information, the farmer is able to really plan the process quite better, really to get this information out of the ground. And I think 3 weeks is really fast. And you might think maybe, okay, it's Bosch, they have the capabilities to do so. But in this case, they founded kind of an incubator organization where spin-offs can develop things like this within the Bosch company. So I think this is transferable to universities, and in Bremen, for the education of engineers, we try also to do things like this. It's quite interesting. So within our curriculum, the engineers are forced to do projects by themselves. So they just get the broad task, develop, assess the sensor system to measure the temperature in different levels of the ground. And within half year or 1 year, a group of students, 5 to 10, are responsible for carrying out this work. If they need advice, they can go to the lecturers and get ideas or discuss these ideas, but all in all, they really have to apply the basic knowledge that they had in the first courses to a real world problem. And so I think this is one example for industry, for really providing technology very fast to the market on the one hand, but also to educate engineers on real world problems. And for maybe for Tunisia or for the agriculture sector, this is just the beginning, because on this slide I took this from IBM. And they say that the development of Internet of Things technology is not at the end, of course, because on the last step on this slide, you see that you really can interconnect systems like this. So just put sensor in the ground is just the beginning. So I did a quick brainstorming. In this case of growing plants, of agriculture, you see that also other systems with new technology can support this. It is kind of systems approach where you really interlink aspects that are not interlinked today or connected today. This is something which is stated with the term smart connected devices, smart connected products. And of course, you don't have to set up a project at the beginning facing to the complete system and the complete automation, because this approach also includes that this could be step by step. So with this first sensor, but then integrating weather forecasting, and then integrating whatever, a cost management system or whatever. And I highlighted condition monitoring here. So this is the center point. So you start here, but you can really grow the aspects. And then in the preparation of this workshop, I was asked to consider the case of Tunisia, which is a bit hard for me, to be honest, because it's the first time I really get.
So to start with, a comparative perspective, Tunisia is, as a small, open economy, well integrated into the world economy by its high exports to GDP ratio. That means there is a high degree of shallow integration into the world economy, into the International Division of Labor, which creates welfare gains by static specialization, which has merits on its own. But in the modern world, it's much more important to be integrated into the international division of labor by producing unique and diverse products. This is what Professor Hatem addressed yesterday already, and this capability is measured by the Economic Complexity Index. And in fact, this index shows that Tunisia is either the first or the second, it differs from year to year, of the African economies being present in the world economy, first or second to South Africa. And this high level of economic complexity as reflected in its export structure shows that there are relevant skills available which are demanded in the international markets, and in terms of economic development perspectives, this means that this complexity allows for broad-based structural change and future economic growth. And finally, there is the issue of integration into global value chains, which is the most important instrument in today's globalized world. Professor Womel mentioned the various trends yesterday which shape the new economy, the new world economy, and the integration into the global value chains is among these trends one of the most important ones, linking the enterprises, linking the countries, linking the regions, and this is considered to be a deep form of integration into the International Division of Labor, and the deep integration tends to allow for greater specialization, higher productivity, and a faster pace in catching up industrialization. So this is the overall picture of the Tunisian economy from a comparative perspective. However, one has to mention that, turning now and specializing on the issue of GVCs, that the backward integration in Tunisia into GVCs is limited basically to two chains only, which is the electrical machinery chain and the textiles, leather, and footwear chain. So the black bar or the black part shows the backward integration, which is measured by the foreign value added share of Tunisia's total gross exports. So there's also a correction in terms of the relevance of a chain in the export structure. It's not just the participation in the chain, but it is also reflecting the overall relevance of this particular industry in the overall export performance. And the white bar shows the domestic value added embodied in foreign exports as a share of Tunisia's total gross exports, and that means this is an indicator of forward integration also. These data are from OECD, and you may know that last year, for the first time ever, OECD covered Tunisia's participation in global value chains, acknowledging the fact that Tunisia is on the road to the highly integrated, industrialized countries. When it comes to a prognosis, I think we have to start with the fact that, assuming the growth rates of the past being the growth rates of the future, there is nevertheless still a very, very far way for Tunisia to go. 60 years from now, Tunisia will reach the EU's average, will catch up with the EU's average in terms of GDP per capita. However, if you compare the GDP per capita ranking with the economic GNI per capita ranking with the economic complexity ranking, then you can see that in terms of complexity, your country is well ahead, 40 positions ahead of the economic and welfare position, and that means there's much more potential in the economic structure of Tunisia than the present income position indicates. So there is, in contrast to these 60 years from now to catch up, sort of an additional potential to catch up. However, as we discussed yesterday already, there is this issue of premature deindustrialization, which means that obviously in the past few years Tunisia did not embark on using this additional catching up potential, and if you look at the complexity development over time, you can see that Tunisia performs a relatively low dynamics. The level of Tunisia's complexity as compared to other countries more or less was stable. That means the position which was reached in the 1960s more or less was the position which was reached in the first decade of our millennium. There may even be sort of a small deterioration, but more or less the position in the world is stable. But if you compare with countries which rapidly catch up, such as Thailand, but also Turkey, then you can see that these countries started from a much lower, much less complex position and managed to catch up via complexity enhancement in recent years. And in particular, if you look at the first decade of our millennium, then you can see that Tunisia was somehow in a very much deteriorating relative position to these rapidly catching up economies. So data are here from the Economic Complexity Project. The second important aspect to think about future developments is to look into foreign direct investment inflows, because foreign direct investment inflows are the most important instrument in linking the economy of a country to global value chains. There may be, of course, other ways domestic enterprises maturing and targeting international markets, targeting international value chains, but the most important instrument, especially in the catching up process, is to be host to foreign direct investment. And here you can see, of course, as everybody knows in this room, that Tunisia has certain advantages vis-à-vis other economies, other middle-income economies, especially low unit labor costs. Unit labor costs compare the productivity and the wage level, and a relatively high productivity due to relatively high skills of the workforce in comparison to relatively low wage rates indicate high unit labor costs. And of course there's also the market aspect and the regulation aspect. But Tunisia, in spite of these advantages, is losing momentum in terms of FDI inflows, which you can see from this chart, which compares the share of developing economies, basically the low-income economies and the lower medium-income economies, in the world inflow of foreign direct investment. So this excludes China for obvious reasons, and it excludes also the least developed countries. So what you can see here is in the upper graph, in fact, are competitors of Tunisia. So countries at the same income level and at the same level of economic and industrial development. And as you can see here, from an index number of 100 in 1990, the average of the developing economies increased their share, especially after the turn of the millennium, while Tunisia faces a decrease in its share in the overall inflows of the foreign direct investment in the world economy. So thirdly, when it comes to the GVC participation, then we can see that there is a general tendency that participation allows also for upgrading in participation. So measuring GVC participation is by the growth rate of foreign value added in gross exports, and the upgrading is measured by the growth rate in the domestic value added content of exports. And if you, and also here I used the latest OECD statistics, so statistics of 2015 covering Tunisia for the first time. Here you can see the correlation between upgrading and change in backward GBC participation. So you could have the horizontal and the vertical axis interchanged, because this does not necessarily mean that there is a causal that there is a causalization from upgrading to backward participation, nor that it is the other way around. It's just a correlation without a causal explanation. But what you can see here is that there is a clear tendency that industries which participate strongly in the GVCs, in international value chains, also have the opportunity to change their positions in these value chains over the recent years. And I remember that I had a discussion with Jalal recently and some time back also that small and medium enterprises in Tunisia, which are capitalized by foreign funds, show less innovative dynamics than purely domestic funded enterprises, which is obviously because most innovation in affiliates of foreign enterprises takes place in the headquarters and is not given to the production sites. So I do not doubt these econometric studies, but what you can see here on a level a little bit lower than the innovation issue, which is the issue of participating in higher value adding activities, clearly shows, to my opinion, that participation in international value chains, which usually is linked also to the inflow of foreign direct investment, helps enterprises to upgrade their production performance. However, as you can see here, in the lower left quarter of this this graph, you can see food products, wool, textiles, food products, chemicals, textiles. These are the industries which are especially important for employment in Tunisia. And unfortunately, what you can derive from this chart is that these very important industries in terms of employment do not participate very much. They are underperformers in terms of participation in GVCs, but also they are underperformers in terms of upgrading. So there is the danger that in particular in those industries which are very important for Tunisia's employment agenda, there is neither a stronger integration nor an upgrading into higher value adding activities. That means that there is the danger, the threat of large parts of exports to processed exports, especially in the agricultural sector. As far as I know, there are many exports going to the world markets unprocessed. And yesterday also was mentioned the fact by the presentation of the ministries, of the representative of the Ministry of Economic Affairs, that technical textiles might be an addition to the present performance of the textile value chain. and regional diversification, of course, is also a way to diversify the access to GBCs. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm ready for discussion at the end of our section, I think.
Thank you. We will give the floor to Mr. Hadi. She's Tunisian. Perhaps you can start your intervention by talking about your background and your short experience in Tunisia and then in Bremen.
So my name is Ziad Khairi. I am in Germany since 15 years. I studied computer science here in Tunisia, in INSAT, from 1997 till 2000, and then I decided to go to Germany to continue my study and to have more experience. And for this reason, I chose Bremen as a city known for language learning, and after that, I decided also to stay there and to continue my study. I studied computer science also at the University of Bremen, and from 2007 to 2010, I worked as research science at the High School of Bremen. Worked on 2 research projects, and then I decided to switch to the company BIBA, which is also a research center. My background is, or my goal in BIBA is to complete my PhD, which is dealing with development of a concept or of methodology to select technologies for specific cases in automotive industry for the assembly line. Nowadays we are speaking about human-robot collaboration, so how a robot can collaborate with humans, and there is many different processes where different technologies are needed, and the goal of my PhD is to develop a methodology in order to select the suitable technology for specific scenarios. So the idea of my presentation today has been changed. The goal from the beginning was to present some projects, which is I think it doesn't make sense to present projects as it is made in Bremen. And for this reason, I decided to tune the presentation and to give some recommendation what can be done here in Tunisia in order to start solving problems. So, brief introduction of BIBA. It's a research institute founded in 1981, and we have in BIBA 2 departments. One is the EPS and the ECAP, and ECAP is the department where I'm working. It's ICT application, information communication technologies application for production. We have about 160 employees, so 100 research scientists and technical workers, and also students. So the vision of BIBA is identification, as it is here mentioned, identification, conceptualization, and demonstration of technology-supported solutions based on problem-oriented research. It means we need a problem to work. If we don't have a problem, we have to find it. So, So there is two ways. Company comes to us and say, okay, we have a problem here. It can be energy efficiency or whatever. Or they open the doors of the company in order to identify the problems. Maybe they don't have the know-how to identify exactly what is exactly happening in the process, and we have the competence and the know-how to analyze and to identify problems. Yeah, it's a picture showing exactly what can research contribute. Normally in Biba we are more focused on this part here. We are doing research in order to gain new knowledge, to have researcher that can be produce innovation, better skills, know-how, and for this reason also I have chosen Germany, to be honest. And yeah, then I think the role after that is for other entities to transfer the knowledge to the companies and to processes. As you can see, we start with research. I know there is research also in Tunisia, but we have to change maybe the art how we are doing research. It's not only publication, because at the end publication is only a book, and everybody can read the publication, but will not have access to go to companies, to processes in this area, production lines. Thank you.
You see that my main job is being the technology transfer officer at University of Bremen, and belong to that, all those startup funding and startup supporting is part of the role. And my second smaller job is being the managing director of the Technology Park Association. And today I was asked to tell you something about the Technology Park and the funding of the Technology Park, etc. So I will tell you a bit about that, especially about the success criteria. And as you can see from above, that's a quite full technology park from last year, more or less. There are some empty spaces, but most of it has been filled already over the last 40 years, and I will tell you parts of the story of that. It is, just to summarize that, it's around 170 hectares of area, and we have there around 500 companies with around 7,300 employees. And there are 20 scientific institutes around the university now. They have 1,500 employees as well, and the university has more than 3,000 employees. And every day there come around 20,000 students to the place. But it's a place just like 9 to 17, people come in and people leave it for the night, mostly, and something has changed as well. Just to give you an insight where it is, the red area there is the place where it's located. That's the city of Bremen, and the city center is somewhere there, the airport is down there. So you can have a glance where it is, but it used to be at the very, very outside of town, where just swampland used to be before that. And to show that you, in the 60s, they had the first plan how a technology park out there, the ideal campus could look like. And there are nearly no enterprises on there. It's just there for the medicine, etc. They were planning medicine, which we never got. And it's kind of campus style, but it ended up differently, as you had seen on the big picture from above. In fact, in '71, the university was founded, and I won't tell you all these enterprises and institutes now here. There are some of them quite afterwards being established in the technology park. One might be quite important. That's the Technology Park Innovation Center. And you have been in there when we had the talks there. You have been in this building. And that's the picture. especially when the university built its own, the first building there. Quite old and quite historical for us, but it's a young university, you should know. Again, from above, here, what has been there as an asset used to be the highway, there on the right-hand side, and you can see the cranes. And this was in the 70s. And then after some years of the first buildings, the Bremen Senate rethought the whole concept, and they said, okay, we should have special clusters there. We should have thematical clusters there, and the enterprises and the university institutes, they should focus there. And to be honest, the clusters are still there, but still a bit. It never resolved being like this. But what worked, as I showed you, in a slow process of steady growth, enterprises came, new startups came, new scientific institutes came, and the whole structure was prepared, but everything was just growing step by step, steadily, as it was needed at that time. And that's, I would say, is the success story behind this technology park. It was planned as the full park, but it was filled just step by step over the years. And so you can see there, they really did not, it was not sure whether we would get this tram line. This tram line combines the airport across the main station towards the university, and that gave the whole area a huge boost, which was actually planned before, and could build it, but it was a harsh political discussion whether the tram line should go to university or to another endpoint, and everybody is very glad and happy today that they realized it like that. That gave us really a good boost again. And to be honest, today, most of the students don't come by car anymore. They have to pay for a tram ticket or a ticket for buses, trams, etc. for the whole region, not only Bremen, but the whole northwest region. And since they pay these, I think it's 60 euros, most of them like to live in a city and come every day by public transport. And to sum up the history, we have a lot of new architecture now in the technology park. You see the drop tower where special gravity experiments are done there, etc. I will skip all those scientific institutes who are there now today. It's Fraunhofer, it's Max Planck, etc. And that's all that was the basic for our excellence university now. But in 2007, everybody realized that for the technology park, some things are missing. And the Senate started to rethink about that, and they rethought a new development concept for the technology park. Everybody saw that it was getting quite full, but they rethought that some things are missing. So the communication was missing. Communication between all those residents there and between the residents and the outer world. So they thought it should be good to have a communication strategy and communication networks, to have newsletters, to speak to multiplicators, to become known regionally and internationally, etc., and to do events for meeting people there, since there are so many people there that they could meet, that they could exchange, that they could do networking, etc., and that there's someone needed doing lobbying, which in the end, what came out is more or less our association as well, where the rector of the university is the vice chairman. And they produced a master plan, how to fill it finally, the technology park, and they realized there's no life after 6 o'clock on the technology park. So the thesis was bringing in more urbanity, having shops there, having a climbing hall that was opening last year just for leisure, having bars maybe in there, etc., and realizing people living there on the campus. So nowadays we have around 1,000 people living there. It's mostly students, and nowadays, well, they built some tents with refugees on there, but we realize they bring life onto the campus as well, and they are quite openly welcome there. So the concept of urbanity, and together with this development concept, how the master plan should be, and all the red colored buildings were those ones still to be built for the rest of the lifetime or the rest of the filling time of the technology park, and some of them are realized already. Again, you see that, and the last one is the climbing hall, as I was talking about about some minutes ago. Just some statistical data. I was asked not to go over the 15 minutes, so I will skip most of that, but just to tell you about that, you see the growth of the technology park from 1898 to 99, 1899 to 2010. We really had a good development, an increase in companies and an increase in employees there. And the sectoral structure is a lot of business, a lot of services there, and there's a lot of engineering there and ICT, which means information and communication technologies. And still prevailing are the really small enterprises. As you can see, as the blue sector there, those companies having 1 to 10 employees are still prevailing together with the 10 to 50 employees sector there. So it's still new companies, small end companies, but all in all, I would say it's a quite stable structure, since if you have one prevailing big company that dominates all, and it's a much better structure there. And this shows the turnover of the enterprises in three cohorts. The blue ones is the old one in the 90s, so that's 2002 and that's 2010. So it means, if you can see there, the turnover of 50 million and the turnover of 250,000, which means the older the companies became, the more the turnover was increasing. And that's a good success story for us to see. First, they are small and have a small turnover. After some years, they grow, and that's a good story. Okay. Just about the Technology Park Association, that's us, that's our networking and lobbying group, more or less. We were founded in 2001, and currently we have 90 members. We represent around 80% of all the workforce there in the technology park. We do the public relations. We are likely to be those ones who know about life and work, and we do all the networking, internal and external networking, as I was telling you already. And that means we have startup meetings in the technology park. We do a dual career program for the exchange of people that come in. If they bring their partners with them, they ask for jobs in another company maybe. If a professor has his wife who wants to work as well. We do neighborhood visitings, we have lunch meetings, we have language courses and a lot of that stuff. And you see that managers breakfast, or we have after work parties, etc. I will skip that. I want to, as a final slide, I want to stick again summarizing on those success factors as I see them. And I was asked again, or was also asked to talk a bit about those success factors, whether they are unique or whether they are.
Yes, you had so many inputs, so we must make it very short now. The theme policy forums in SDI, I have chosen it because we know from Asian emerging countries and from Latin American emerging countries that they use the SDI policy forums to catch up. SDI policy forums meaning that you bring together in various forms all the relevant stakeholders, research institutions, research policy makers, entrepreneurs, innovative entrepreneurs, financing institutions, financing innovations, venture capital funds, and so on. So, how to initiate policy forums as a tool for national, regional, and global networking, how to manage these policy forums, and how to how can such policy forums be used for supporting the reindustrialization process, coming back to our issue. It is very important to involve the important stakeholders. During the discussion yesterday, we had 2 lectures on the National Innovation System presentation by Monda and by Hatem. You showed the description of the National Research System of Tunisia. I had the impression that the entrepreneur is not so much in the center of, was not so much in the center of your presentations, but we know from Josef Schumpeter, the great economist from Austria, he has developed his innovation theory and gave also the basis for the national innovation system, the post-Schumpeter works. The innovator, the entrepreneur is the basis, is the key of the national innovation system, because he's the searching the market and he is investigating the market, so he's the central person. And I had a bit the impression from yesterday that you presented the national research system, the research actors, but not so much focused on the innovative entrepreneurs, say, of Tunisia. From the innovation surveys, we know that about Tunisia, we know that you have, say, 100 companies doing research and development, maximum number. And these are the key stakeholders, and you have to bring them into contact with all the actors. Example of Germany, and also we have also SDI policy forums in the context of high technology strategy 2020, bringing together all research institutions, ministerial actors, but mainly also the entrepreneurs who have to apply for funding. Yesterday we spoke about the technological capability. In order to bring together, you have to look at technological capability as comprising 5 elements: human resources capability, process and management capability, technological infrastructure capability, institutional infrastructure capability, financial capability. These are the main areas. And so SDI policy forums will together the actors who can help to create and support technological capability. According to Schumpeter, these innovative entrepreneurs are at the center of the national innovation system, and also the financing, because the banks and the venture capital funds are the actors who are selecting the best innovations and the most, or should do this. Yes, this is the role of the bank. So it is very important to include also the venture capital funds and the banks who are financing innovations. The research system and the tertiary and vocational education system. It is very important to include not only the tertiary education system, but also the vocational education system, In Germany, at your visit, we have seen the crafts center in Bremen and how they link up with university and enterprises. And the policy side has to be part of the innovation system and of a policy form. All these elements should be present at the SDI Policy Forum, meaning that you have a discussion of, to make an example, yesterday I spoke about 4 routes to reindustrialization, and you can now develop and design SDI policy forums for each of these routes to reindustrialization. For example, agriculture, involving agro-industry companies, research institutions. You have various on police and on other issues, and financing activities being part of these tasks. At the moment, I have the impression that there is a link from the ministries down to the research institutions, but here I think you have a SDI forum based on a horizontal coordination of all actors who could involve SDI for reindustrialization of agriculture, or who could support regional industries in the neglected areas, or who could join initiatives for sectors for global value chains. So it is very important to involve tertiary education and vocational education. As you see, this huge number of unemployed is has to be discussed in such policy forums, leading to new policies and discussions. Yesterday I spoke about the 3 capabilities: technological capability, information, IT capability, and innovation capability. The SDI policy forums should look at the trends, at the global trends and the regional trends according to the various indicators available, the Comparative Industrial Performance Index, Global Innovation Index, and Global Information Technology Index. This is a very important task to see the weak and the strong points. Tunisia is also embedded into regional and global innovation systems, and these SDI policy forums should also secure and discuss the links at the national level, but also at the sector level and so on. You are part of the global innovation system by the transnational corporations, WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, WTO. You are part of global sectors of importance like automotive and aerospace and textiles. You are part of a sub-regional innovation system of North Africa, although not very much networked. You are part of an increasing regional African innovation system, and you are part of the European innovation system. We just have heard about the Horizon 2020. But all these networks and links have to be considered by, say, SDI policy forums. Managing policy forums in Tunisia, SDI policy forums should be autonomous from government. The chair should rotate between representatives of the science, education community, the political administrative quarters, and the enterprises. Links between the 6 pillars I have shown you have to be strengthened by incentives to cooperate. SDI policy forum should include the representatives of all the 6 pillars mentioned above, and should link up with the African, European, and global SDI actors. It is very important also, you know it better, that Tunisia is part of a great number of African initiatives, and I think it is very important that the national SDI policy forums of Tunisia coordinate with all these important institutions which came up in the last few years, and show that Africa is realizing the importance. Capturing value added from SDI policy forums by establishing links and sharing information between the pillars and with the African institutions, by intensifying the cooperation through established and new promotion instruments. So the SDI policy forum should discuss about matching grants, how to fund enterprises and research institutions jointly, how to develop research corporations being partners of innovative enterprises, commercialization strategies of new research results, revising jointly economic policies, education training strategies, investment incentives, and SDI policy reforms. These should not come from the top, from the ministry, but should be part of the work of an SDI policy forum. Developing a coherent innovation strategy for public administration and public enterprises. Very important to look also at the huge public sector in Tunisia to involve it in the SDI policy forum and to make it work. Monitoring and evaluating SDI funding mechanisms. I think just one last, this was it. I'm also inviting some Tunisian colleagues to join the next yearbook volume. We prepare volume 20 on science, technology, and innovation policies for inclusive growth in Africa, and there will be a strong focus on these SDI policy forums and how we can use experience also from Latin America and East Asia for developing such forums. Because I have the feeling, and my last word, that this top-down view of a national innovation system has to be replaced by a horizontal way of discussing collaboratively and jointly between all the actors new policies.
Thank you, Carl, for the presentation, and it gives a good introduction to what I will be saying very, very briefly about what TASTI is trying to do in the arena of science, technology, and innovation in general, and specifically in the area of STI policy design. And before talking about what we call Tunisia Innovation Network, and for short, InnoNet, I would like to talk a little bit about what TASTI, through, of course, its members, and mainly its members of TASTI's bureau. TASTI started in 2011, right after the revolution, of course. And it was a choice, a deliberate choice, to participate in the democratic transformation of Tunisia while being in the civil society arena and not on the political side. And our main motivation was to remain at the same distance of all political parties and still work as much as we can with our very little means, be it financial or human, towards the consolidation of our STI system, and mainly through STI policies. So, TASTI itself, the birth of TASTI itself, showed this determination of this small group, where at least 3 of us are here, myself, Bahri Zid, and Hatem Henni, to actually work towards the strengthening of our national innovation system through the influence, if possible, of STI policies. And that wasn't an easy task, because as you see today, and since the revolution, there is no much interest, if at all, from all the government that came after January 14 about science, technology, or innovation. As a matter of fact,